This fascinating life story began when I was given a vacation. I decided to visit my home village, where I spent my entire childhood and lived until I was 17. Being the youngest in the family, I was adored by everyone. I had many friends, but going to school meant traveling from the village to the city, which was quite difficult. So my mother advised me to move and settle in the city. Although I didn't particularly like the city, I had to heed my mother's advice. I continued studying for a few years and eventually found a job. I had always wanted to visit the countryside, but time did not permit. Finally, I bought a ticket and got on a bus. The trip lasted about 2 hours, during which I dozed off. I woke up when the bus stopped. When I opened my eyes, I saw that people were heading towards the exit. I got up from my seat and got off the bus. The bus stop was not far away. I took a leisurely stroll, and the house I once lived in showed up in the distance. As I got closer, I saw my grandmother, who was engrossed in some activity outside the house. She didn't recognize me at first, but when she realized who I was, she got excited. We entered the house, and she expressed her intention to cook something delicious. Since I was a little girl, I had always enjoyed all the dishes my grandmother cooked. However, it turned out that we were out of bread. I volunteered to go to the nearest store to get bread. My grandmother urged me to hurry, saying this in a firm tone of voice but with a smile on her face. As I left the house, I ran into Karen, a high school friend who lived not far from Grandma. She always liked to talk. From her, I learned that Walter, our classmate who had been courting me since almost first grade, was having a party at his house. Basically, it's his birthday and he's inviting all his friends and classmates. In a hurry, I hurriedly headed to the store. After saying goodbye to my friend, I promised to go over to her place to sit and talk longer. After quickly returning from the store, my grandmother and I ate dinner, chatted, and eventually went to bed. The morning greeted us with warmth. Sipping my coffee, I informed my grandmother of my intention to take a leisurely walk by the river, donning a light knee-length dress. I went for a walk. I walked along the road at a relaxed pace. As I reached the river, I looked around at my surroundings. A black car started to approach me. I stepped aside, letting it pass. The car traveled a short distance in front of me and stopped. I immediately recognized the familiar face that got out of the car. It was Walter. I looked up at him, amazed for a moment at how handsome he had become. "Hi," he greeted me. I smiled back at him. "Why are you walking alone at this early hour?" he inquired. "Couldn't sleep, so I decided to take a walk," I replied. "I could keep you company," he suggested. "I wouldn't mind," I agreed. He held out his hand and we headed towards the river together. We walked along the riverbank. Eventually, Walter suggested we go for a swim. I hesitated, citing the fact that I didn't have a swimsuit. "That's okay," he reassured me. "I'm not gonna watch. I'll go first. And you after me," and went into the water? And I went into the water after him. We started swimming and indulged in playful antics for about an hour. When I decided to get out of the water, Walter came up to me. I had not the slightest desire to leave the place. It was at that moment that our love story began. It continued for a considerable period of time. Eventually, we got out of the water and headed to his car. Walter graciously offered to drive me home. Upon reaching my house, he told me that I was like everyone else and that he had gotten everything he wanted. He ordered me out of the car and foolishly thought in my head that I would meet him and that he loved me. Please share in the comments your thoughts on where all the normal men have gone. Why do they only focus on one thing? As soon as they achieve their desires, they disappear. What actions should be taken in response to this? Where can I meet a decent man?
My name is Patrick.